Goon Cartoons!
Wild Cartoon Kingdom was an animation magazine published from 1993 to 1994 by Larry Flynt Publications. The magazine was created by Film Threat founder Chris Gore. It was edited by a number of people during its run, including John Kay of Ren and Stimpy and Spumco fame. The magazine lasted 5 issues, and sadly, after the 5th issue, it was canceled by LFP. Hey everybody, Frank Forte here, a veteran of the comic book and animation and film and TV industry. We're going to do a little book look here. We are going to talk about Wild Cartoon Kingdom. This is the first issue. Wild Cartoon Kingdom was a animation magazine, ran for 6 issues, 1993-94. Created and edited by Chris Gore of Film Threat magazine fame, and published by Larry Flynt, who published Hustler and, not only adult and nudie mags, but Larry Flynt published tons of magazines in the 80s and 90s. So Wild Cartoon Kingdom, number 1. This came out in the height of the Ren and Stimpy boom. So Ren and Stimpy on the cover. You've got Batman the Animated Series, Japanimation, Saturday morning cartoons, super special collector's edition. I mean, you saw this on the stands and you just had to buy it. There wasn't, an internet back then, so you really didn't know much about the background of these cartoons or the creators. So you definitely went to magazines to find out this stuff. So this came out, let's see, Larry Flynt, it was 1993, Wild Cartoon Kingdom, issue 1. Really cool little article on advertisement for Animation Magazine. See, that magazine's been around for a while too. So you have the first issue. Here's the contents page. Death of Ren and Stimpy, Wild Cartoon Kingdom editorial, Kitty Cartoon News, Sellout, The Strife and Times of Ren and Stimpy. So 2 Ren and Stimpy articles. Cartoons for Men, What's Next from John Kay. George Liquor stuff, some more Spumco, Japanimania, Batman Reanimated, storyboard stuff, cartoon video, Saturday Morning Fever, looking back at old cartoons, Wild Games. I mean, it's just like everything. You got Ren and Stimpy, Bugs Bunny, anime, Batman, Plimpton. I mean, very cool. So this came out at the height of when Ren and Stimpy was supposedly being canceled by Nickelodeon, and everybody was up in arms. And, at the time, John Kay and Spumco, they did a really good job of getting people pissed off at Nickelodeon, and you were really just fired up. So here's Chris Gore talking about how, what happened, how they're trying to take away his power and all this stuff. And it was really, kind of big news back then that, the big production companies like Nick were trying to, censor these cartoons. So you were just fired up if you were like a cartoon fan. So a lot of cool articles about The Simpsons, Hanna-Barbera, just great little, little items and creators and just cool stuff if you were like a cartoon fan. So here is Sellout, the big Ren and Stimpy article written by Chris Gore himself, The Plot to Kill Cartoons. So this really talked about how Nickelodeon was trying to censor and fire John Kay and all his people. And, it was just, people were just like, maniacal about this stuff. So here's like, I think these are fan letters to Ren and Stimpy, and then also letters to Nickelodeon protesting the censorship and cancellation or firing of John Kay. And here's a great little, episode log. Big House Blues, the pilot, which a lot of people, we would see that in animation festivals before. That's where I saw it. And then, all these shows, and they were always so late. So you're always watching these over and over again and waiting for the next one, and you never knew really what was going on. So this is still a great magazine and still a great, this shows the Spumco episodes, and then it goes Games taking over, which were still like written by John Kay, but they had to finish them over there, so it was all like nobody thought the Games episodes were as good, but they were still kind of had his influence. I mean, it was just nutty. So what happened to cartoons anyway? I think this might have been, some of the stuff was ghostwritten by John Kay. I'm not positive, but this looks like it is, because it's like all talking about Bob Clampett and everything, and John was a big Clampett fan. So you just talk about what is a cartoonist, how they work, and how storyboards were important, and how they didn't work from scripts, and it was really about the cartoonist and the artist who should write the cartoons. And there's John Kay talking about, I think, obviously talking about himself here. And then it was really cool because you'd see a lot of this stuff, and you'd see like the drawings and how Ren and Stimpy started and the origins and all these drawings. And all this stuff was really great to a young cartoonist, comic artist like me, to see like the drawings and the behind the scenes stuff, because living in Connecticut, I really didn't get this. I wasn't out in LA. So it was cool to see their workspace and how these guys, there's Glenn Barr. He's obviously a famous artist now, but he got his start doing backgrounds and some of the close-up paintings. So this goes, and this whole article talks about the origins of Ren and Stimpy, how they worked, just weird stuff. And one of the big things about Ren and Stimpy, I think, were these, these close-up images that they would do, which were done before in Warner Brothers cartoons, but not to the detail and gross out like Ren and Stimpy did. So like when I opened this up when I was a kid, not a kid, I don't know, I was like in my early 20s, I guess, but and I saw these, and you could really look at them and study them, where they were on the screen for just a few seconds. This was really eye-opening for me, because I was like, oh my God, like look at the detail, like look how these are painted. They look like cells, but they're rendered, and it's like part cell, but then this part's rendered. I mean, it was just eye-opening. And they really talked about how they made the cartoons, how they made the voices, and how they did their own sounds and music. And it's just really in depth. And at the time, Spumco's philosophy was to let artists make the cartoons, not writers. And it really did make Ren and Stimpy stand out. Boogers, farts, I mean, just some of these paintings and drawings. And this was all like Bill Ray, and a lot of the guys that worked there would do the drawings, and then Bill Ray would paint a lot of them, and I think Glenn Barr too. But it talks about it all in there. And then, early on, they were like trying to demonize Bob Camp. And as a cartoonist, like I liked all these guys, and it was just like the people that went to games were like, cast out by the Spumco guys, and there was a split. It was really crazy. But yeah, great. Definitely a pro Ren and Stimpy article, for sure. A pro John Kay. And then Cartoons for Men. This is like John Kay talking about what it was coming next. And Ripping Friends did become a cartoon, but it was cool to see. Oh yeah, what they did Spumco. Obviously, they could do other stuff, like what could be next. And this was really like, oh my God, we couldn't wait to see this cartoon. Bonus pinup. George Liquor, that was another character that was featured in Ren and Stimpy, but John got the rights back, I guess. There's a little thing how John got the name for George Liquor, and just like these drawings are just, I mean, as a cartoonist, you're like looking at this stuff going, amazing. Then we go into Japanimania, and then at the time, early 90s, Akira came out, and there was all this underground anime stuff coming over, like Wicked City, Urotsuka Doji, Dirty Pair, and you really, it wasn't on TV, so you had to buy videotapes. I can't remember when DVDs came out, but it was all videotapes, and it was all bootleg. Like you got a bootleg at comic book convention, so these really like 3- and 4th generation dubs, but it was just a great time to go and like discover all this stuff. And a lot of it was R-rated and some of it was even X-rated, but you know, it was just so much better and violent, and just the animation was so much better than what you were seeing on TV that you just gravitated towards it. And, you know, Wicked City, this was another great one. I loved Wicked City. And, you know, they talk about the old ones. And Colonel Bleep, I don't know if you guys know Colonel Bleep, but that was kind of an anime-inspired cartoon that was regaining popularity in the 90s. And then here we go, Batman the Animated Series. Again, this came out early 90s. This was also a huge hit because it was so, you know, adult. And, you know, people that were into Kirby and Alex Toth and all that stuff, you could see the influence. And then just the storyboards, when you looked at the art of book and you look at this stuff, you really saw there was a craftsmanship that was, you know, unsurpassed. This stuff, you know, they really got highly talented people to work on this show. And it was cool that they're here. They're like showing off these storyboards. Like these are an important part of the process. And you never really saw that before in magazines or the way they talked about them. And storyboards weren't done like this detailed or this solid. They were just like loose drawings. And this just talks about, you know, Bruce Timm and the crew and how they got started. And a lot of the people from Tiny Toons, which was also where John Kay worked. And I think John Kay and Bruce Timm worked together. So a lot of the crews went back and forth. But yeah, just look at the storyboards. They're just like, you know, look at how important these are, these drawings, these amazing, fully rendered boards. But a great article just on the form and the designs, and Paul Dini was on it, and just they really talk about how it came together. It was just a really great in-depth article. And then, of course, you know, you have these like episode breakdowns and, you know, again, highlighting all these great storyboards at the bottom, but highlighting all the episodes. Look at that. And then you hear, you know, they're celebrating these people. Director Frank Parr, you know, writer, teleplay. Writer Len Wein, I think his name is Wein or Wine. Michael Reeves, Paul Dini. Director, I know Kevin Altieri worked on a bunch of these. Bruce Timm directed some of them. So it's a really great article. And then you have, you know, again, celebrating the art of animation. You're going into a Charlie Brown episode and just talking about how the storyboards work. So as a young cartoonist who I wanted to be either a comic book artist or an animator, I wasn't sure what I wanted, but looking at all this stuff, you know, in my art school, they didn't teach us anything about animation. So I learned a lot about this from art of books and magazines like this. Cartoon video review. So a lot of, you know, video collecting and renting was going on back then. Talk about Cool World, Rocket Ship Reel. I think this was like, yeah, the animated short collection. Vampire Hunter D was huge. The Toon by Bill Plympton. Now, Bill Plympton was big then too for, you know, as an indie animator, and just in the animation festival scene, you would always see Bill Plympton's work, and he made a living selling his shorts like overseas and in Europe, where he said he would make more money there than selling them here, because there really wasn't a market for animated shorts in the States like there was in Europe. So I took a class with him and I learned a lot. Saturday Morning Fever, again, going back to like Saturday morning and celebrating the stuff we grew up with in the 80s. Look at this, an old comic book ad. And then, you know, look at talking about, they're rating these old cartoons, Star Trek, Jabberjaw, Hong Kong Phooey, Warner Brothers, Super Friends, Land of the Lost, Josie and the Pussycats, Scooby-Doo, Far Out, Richie Rich, Pee-wee's Playhouse. Ooh, look, 2 9s. Highly rate it. A little word search, and then look at this in the back. It's really funny to be like Video Comics, Vampire Hunter D, Hepcats, and then a advertisement for Jab, that comic book that that's where Too Much Coffee Man debuted in, and the first one they shot a gun through it, and you buy it and there was a hole in it. It was really cool. I think everyone had the gunshot in it. More anime advertisement in the back. And there it is. Wild Cartoon Kingdom, #1, 1993. I'll be doing reviews on all of these coming up, so definitely check it out. You can check me out on social media, Frank Forte Art, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. AsylumPress.com is my publishing house. Goon Cartoons is where you can see some original animation and me talking about animation and cartoons. All right, thanks, guys. Hey everyone, you can check me out on the web at frankforte.com. I have a store there where I sell all sorts of merchandise, artwork, sketches, comic books, enamel pins, stickers, all sorts of cool stuff. You can find me on social media, Frank Forte Art on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and even update Blogger sometimes, but check me out if you want to buy t-shirts and stuff. I have all that stuff on Threadless, Society 6, and Spring, so you can find other types of merch there. Thanks for watching, and subscribe. Thank you.
Goon Cartoons! Thanks for watching our videos, and remember to subscribe for more great cartoons. And be sure to ring the bell to be notified every time we upload a new video. And if you liked that last cartoon, check out these other great cartoons. Go ahead, click one. Go for it. Click it.